Hey, welcome to another episode of Reestablishment. And as always, I'm your host, Bodie D'Andrea. So I want you today to picture yourself at the end of a midway on your state fair. And you're looking down at all of the games in the midway, and you're going to walk down the middle. And as you begin walking, everybody on either side is trying to pull you in, using flashing lights, using megaphones, using weird costumes, colored hair, some kind of gimmicks. And you know as you're walking through that most of these games you're not going to play with, but there may be a couple that you may want to put some coins into to try to shoot something or climb something or do something, knowing full well that most of the time they're going to beat you at the game. Do you ever feel like life is that way right now? That as we're walking through life, all these special events and protests and people on the edge of whatever it is they believe in are trying to pull you left and right. And you always feel like your head is spinning and you're looking and they're trying to lure you in. And you know good and well that that is not a good way to go. Well, stay tuned today because here on Reestablishment, we want to help you to be able to navigate those things that would try to pull you from side to side that may be all glitzy and let you live a prosperous life doing the things that are right. So we'll see you in just a minute. Hey, welcome back. So today, everybody needs a life coach, and today I brought my life coach with me, and his name is Phil Lewis, and Phil is an incredible guy. We actually met by chance. Well, it wasn't by chance, but it wasn't a planned meeting, really. And he's certified as a Dave Ramsey coach with different financial advice. He's also a John Maxwell coach and a pastor. And so he has such a good repertoire, it's about the only French I know, of things that he can pull from. And so today I wanted to bring somebody in that can give us good guidance as a life coach. You know, a lot of times, guys like me when I was younger thought we knew everything and didn't want to sit under somebody. I know it, I can do it. You know, if we were so good, we'd have already fixed our problems. And so we realized the need that it's always good, even if it bounces something off of somebody else, even if it's to be a sounding board or what have you, to have that life coach. Phil, welcome to Reestablishment. I'm so glad to have you with us today.
Thanks, Bodie. Really an honor to be here, and I'm excited about sharing a little bit about some things that are really some basic principles about life coaching, and as it relates to finances, as it relates to family, personal issues, all that kind of stuff that hopefully will be really helpful to the people who are watching.
Yeah, so when you work with, I don't want to call them clients, but just everyday people, do you start with the individual and then work with the family? Like you start with the person, find out where they're at, and then kind of branch out from there?
Yeah, really the beginning of the session or an experience with a client, and that is what we use, an opportunity to kind of help them, guide them, direct them. I kind of consider myself as not the hero of the story, but the guide. Right? And my job is to make them the hero. My job is to come alongside of them and help them discover things, see things that they may be aware of but haven't been able to take action on, or to help them see some things that they haven't seen. Blind spots, right? And we all have those. And it takes somebody from the outside to show you some of the things on the inside that you can't see. And a lot of times people will say, well, I've been working on my blind spots. And I'll say, well, who told you about them? And they'll say, well, I just discovered them. And I say, well, that's not a blind spot.
Right.
A blind spot is something you cannot see unless you have somebody else's help. So, yeah, we start with them basically asking some very simple questions. Tell me about who you are. Tell me about how you got here. Tell me about your life experiences. Everything from family origin, birth order, your life experience, all of the things that have put input right into your life, all the things that have made you who you are. And we start there because that paints a pretty good picture, a quick picture
Yes.
of some things that we can automatically say, okay, well, if you're the baby of the family, there's a good chance you're a people pleaser. There's a good chance that you want to do things so that people will like you. If you're a middle child, you probably are still trying to, what am I here for? What am I about? You know, my older brother and my younger sister, they seem to know where they're going, but what do I do? So there's a lot of things that kind of give us a quick view of where they're at. And then we join them right where they're at. We join them on their journey. We join them on that pin drop. Well, here's where you are. Here's what you've experienced. Now let's see. And the big question for coaching, and I get this question a lot, so maybe I'll answer it before you ask it.
Sure.
What is the difference between a counselor and a coach, or a mentor and
So,
a
Phil,
consultant?
what's the difference between a counselor and a coach?
Great question, Bodie. Great question. So the difference is, and I'll use a bicycle illustration. I'm a biker. I love that, not like Harley Davidson biker,
Right.
but cyclist. I use this as the illustration. So a mentor, if you wanted to learn about a bike and you went to a mentor would say, watch me ride the bike. Okay. A consultant would say, here's how a bike, here's here's how a bike works. All right. A counselor would say, how do you feel when you ride a bike, right?
Right.
A coach would say, where do you want to go? And that's the difference. So it's not that coaches don't talk about the past or don't even address issues from the past, but a coach is much more focused on where do you want to go? Because we all have
Right.
issues. We all have hurt.
Sure.
We all have pain. We all have brokenness in the past. And at some point, once you discover it, what do you do then? You
Right.
still have to move forward into what you want.
You have to navigate through that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it almost seems like every day, every week, every month, there's a special interest group that's vying for our attention, vying for our money, attention, whatever it might be. And I think a lot of times, I saw it really during COVID as a supervisor, where people were really feeling the pressure to get vaxxed, not vaxxed, to wear a mask, don't wear a mask, to do
Right.
this, do that. And so, and we're not going to get into that, but the end of the story was I had people that came up and said, I crossed my own red line, or I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I would have done something different. That the pressure, and it's not even peer pressure, it's just a general pressure, caused me to move past what I would normally do. And so I think as a life coach, that's one of the big things is where do you set those boundaries? And what are the basic things that when you do set those guidance for yourself, you kind of stay with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's a struggle for all of us with or without a life coach, because there's always those opportunities. If the coach isn't sitting in the room with you 24/7 to help you to go, no, stop, whoa, or hey, come on, you gotta go. Being able to give you the confidence and give you some tools that will help you to keep those boundaries. And when I think of boundaries, I think of barbed wire fence, right? A barbed wire fence has not only a line, but also has a barb, right? It not only creates a boundary, but it creates a barb, so that on either side of that fence, if you get too close, you don't die, you know,
Right.
but you get poked, and you realize, hey, I'm getting too close to something that's really important to me. I'm getting too close to something that I've put in my life as a barrier, as a boundary to protect me or protect a relationship that I have. So
If you had like 2 or 3 just main things that everybody could probably agree to to help them in this journey
yeah.
that we call life, what would you say those 2 or 3 things would be?
Yeah, the first one right off the top is the community that you're involved in, the people you're around, your friends, right? It has been said that we're the average of the 5 people that we are closest to, the 5 friends that we have. We are, if this is them, we're the average. We're in the middle. And so being able to have the right people in our lives that will help hold us accountable, that will honor our boundaries, that will encourage us, that will be there when things all fall apart, and to celebrate with us when everything falls into place. Those are, to me, that's one of the things that we talk a lot about as far as life coaching. Who are the people that are around you? Who's in the corner with you? Who's on your team? And helping them to develop good, healthy relationships so that they can count on those people and those people can count on them. So that would definitely be the first thing. The other thing is a good old Dave Ramsey idea, and that is to have a written plan. Everybody talks about, do you have a budget? Oh yeah, I have a budget. Well, can I see it? Well, it's in my mind.
Right.
I have a kind of an idea. Well, that's not a written budget. It's not a written plan. And so literally being able to say, again, going back to this illustration as coach, where do you want to go? Finding that target, that I want to be this person, and then reverse engineering the steps to get there, because really it's an identity-based trip, right? If you want to be an athlete, you have to do the things that athletes do. You have to get up in the morning, you have to eat healthy, you have to run, you have to exercise, you have to do. If you want to be an athlete, it's very simple. There's a list of things that will help you to be that. So if you want to be a great dad, right? You want to be a great man, you want to be a great mom, great wife, whatever the case may be, there's a list of habits. And it's about implementing those habits over time to where they become your lifestyle, they become a pattern, and it helps you get there. So really, I would say the people in our lives and the plans in our lives are the things that are going to really help us to stay on track.
That's such a good point. Even you're making me think about, some things in how I do business. My generation and even my kids' generation, they're all about winging it. They really don't. And I think part of it is we are a very emotionally based society. And you and I know that you can't live by your emotions because they'll lie to you.
Right.
They'll deceive you. If you believe somebody said something bad about you and you get angry at them and they actually never really said it, then your emotions have led you down a wrong path.
Right.
And so it's more, like you said, well, how do you think about it? It's more about what are you thinking about it? And where does that thinking come from? What's the basis of that? And so I think it's very important. The written plan, it's kind of interesting you say that, because in my mind I'm thinking, because I do, probably shouldn't confess this, but my personal budgets I do have in my head. However, my goals, I do write them down. And I have a 1-year goal and 3-year goals. And they are rolling. So my 1 and 3-year goals are always a rolling goal from where I'm at today. And so I think you're spot on giving people, that good information. How about financial? Any couple really solid financial tips that everybody could benefit from?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So the financial piece is, again, a written plan. A budget's going to be, extremely key to that. But I think, again, going back to the winging it part, the emotional part, a lot of us spend based on not a plan, but on emotions. What everybody else has. Hey, they got a new car, I need a new car. They got got new clothes, I need new clothes. And a lot of how we react in life is truly an emotional response. And so if you can look at finances as an opportunity to not only create a better life for yourself, become generous and be able to help others, right? I've heard of people who have made plenty of money for themselves and they've thought, well, now it's time for me to retire. And friends have come alongside them and said, well, you're too young to retire. Why don't you keep working and give that money away? Why don't you keep working and allow that money to do some things that, because you're gifted, you're talented, all that kind of stuff. So having, again, going back to a plan, I think is really important. The financial piece is something. If we go to marriages, it's one of the top 3, right?
Yes.
Intimacy, income, and in-laws. Those are the 3 issues that we talk a lot with. And a lot of times the income part is because there's a spender and there's a saver in most relationships, and that creates conflict, right? And to be honest, there's just not enough there's not enough conversation around money in the home. There's a lot of things that are assumed. There are a lot of things that happen. I had the privilege. My dad was a CEO, or actually a CFO for a nonprofit, and so I grew up around money, not our money,
right,
but a nonprofit's money. And so I got exposed to saving. And his principle was really simple. And if there was one real simple principle to give people, I would tell them this: look, you get $10. $1 of that ought to go into savings. Okay, $1 of that ought to go to a charity or to the Lord, to a church,
right,
whatever. And 80, you ought to learn to live on 80%. And so literally, as my dad, when I would do work and stuff like that, when he would give me money, he would say to me, as he handed me $10, he'd say, "Here's $8 for you." And he would make it a rhythm the way that I would look at money, and I would say, "That's not all mine. That's not on mine.
You know, I was
in
raised
fact,
the same way.
Were you?
Yes,
So
my
it's a
dad
simple
was an
principle.
entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and he said you pay God first, you pay yourself second, and then you live on the rest.
Right.
And so, you know what's interesting is everything that we've talked about bedrocks back to one big principle. If we could find one great volume that we could all read from, it would be the Bible.
Right.
That every principle that we've talked about today has its origins back in the Bible. You know, I was preparing to speak at a church, and when I was preparing, and I was actually praying, and I looked at Genesis, and I was looking at we are not created to walk alone. So many people try to self-absorb, or they try to take on everything on their own, and they don't have that support system, whether it be a life coach. Some people don't have a family or a family they can trust. Some folks don't have a church group or whatever. And, you know, I went all the way back to Adam and Eve. And I'm like, even before they sinned, God walked with them every day in the garden. We were not created to walk this journey alone. And so I think I would say today, with all the stuff that we've given everybody, that would probably be the bedrock, the place that we would start. Is maybe that's an old musty Bible that you haven't looked at in a while, or you can get it on your phone and dig it up and get those solid principles that we talked about. All comes from that book.
It does. It does.
And to understand, no matter what you're going through today, you're not alone, even if you feel alone. You were not designed to navigate and walk through life alone. That was not anybody's plan. However you believe we got here, that was not the design and the plan. And so I would encourage people today to find somebody like Phil, find somebody that you can make yourself accountable to. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And going back to the Bible thing, I think is interesting because John Maxwell says every leadership principle he's ever taught and ever lived has come from the Bible. Everyone. Yeah. And just like you said, they're in there. They're in there.
Right.
And it shouldn't shock us, right? I mean, he's the one that created us, made us, understands us better than we know ourselves. And so that would be the number one source to go to find that stuff out.
Well, thanks, Phil. So, today, again, how I started, you're in the midway and you're walking and you're seeing all these flashy things trying to pull you, whether it's a protest or it's a special day or a month or a special group, a subset of people trying to pull your attention, your money, whatever. Keep laser focused on what's ahead. Get the right person to walk next to you, come beside you, and you will navigate this thing we called life. And you will do it with grace, and you will be successful. Thank you very much, Phil. If you want to know more about Phil, go to phillewis.org, phillewis.org, and we will see you on the next Reestablishment.
This episode of Reestablishment is brought to you by Man360.tv, a show for men about manly things. Check it out, Man360.tv.